Today we're going to talk about present or progressive active participles. And it's called either, but I'm going to call them progressive. Really what it means is these participles are occurring at the same time as your main verb. That's how they are progressive, also known as present. So what is a participle? Just as a review, a participle is a form of a verb, which means it comes from a verb, but is used as a different part of speech. And here they are verbal adjectives, and being adjectives, they must agree with the noun they modify in case, number, and gender, just like any other Greek adjective. So let's start with how we form the present or progressive active participle. So first we take the stem. So we go to our first principal part of the verb. Here we're going to use luo as an example. And you drop off your omega and you get your stem. And now, unlike progressive middle participles, these are going to change endings depending on gender. So for the masculine, the nominative ending is on and the genitive ontos. And you'll notice, if you look at the pattern here with that os at the genitive ending, after the nominative, all the other ones will take third declension endings. So just that os at the end of luontos will change and use third declension endings, which you'll see on a chart in a little bit. The feminine is luusa, luuses, and this is going to use first declension short alpha endings. And the neuter is luon, luontos, and again, this will use third declension endings for the neuter. So luo was a regular verb, but we also have to keep in mind that we have contract verbs. So let's look how their vowels change. So up here on the top we have luo, our regular verb, and the nominative and genitives that follow. For our epsilon contract, you'll notice that the masculine nominative singular is the same, and in the genitive singular we add an upsilon in the stem, so it's philuntos. The feminine, you'll notice, is nearly exactly the same. The only thing that will change from the regular is a slight accent change, but I didn't even add it here because it's that unimportant. And then in the neuter, we have the upsilon that joins us again, so we have philun and philuntos. Alpha contract verbs, remember alpha is a strong vowel, so we're going to see an omega take over where we had an omicron before, so timon, timontos, timosa, timoses, and timon in timontos. So now let's look at our endings. So for the masculine, as we said, we have luon, luontos. So that os ending should remind you of the third declension because this entire gender is going to take third declension masculine feminine endings. And just like any other third declension, note that the dative plural changes a little. So instead of having the nt, we have usi. The feminine here in the middle uses first declension short alpha endings. So the plural looks like any other first declension feminine endings, but the nominative is going to be a mix of that alpha and eta. So just pay attention. These are your short alpha endings. And the neuter, luon, luontos, again, is going to use third declension neuter endings, so be careful of that dative. Now that we're in the present active or progressive active participle, we also have our verb to be. And here's a chart of our verb to be. You can pause it on here if you want to go over it again. But basically, it's like cutting off the stem from your ending and just using the endings themselves. So you can look over this, translate it as being, and it should look very familiar. The only problem is some of these are short, so when you see them in the context of a larger text, it might be tricky to identify. So be very careful with these. So finally, let's talk about how to translate and use these. So if you remember, these are translated exactly like your progressive middle participles, so just verbing. So here luon is loosening. And they're used in the same exact way as well. So they can be used as an attributive or circumstantial adjective, which basically just means it's modifying a noun. So here, oi douloi en to agro ponuntes kamnusen, the slaves working in the fields are tired. Notice that ponuntes is in the same case, number, and gender as douloi, the noun it modifies, even though they're not in the same declension. And again, they can also end the meaning of a verb, so they can finish off the meaning of a verb. So here, ha doulos poetai ponon, the slave stops working. Again, note that ponon is in the same case, number, and gender as what it modifies, ha doulos.